Hello and welcome to the Real Estate Regroup Show. I am your host, LJ Walker. Well, guys, good news. The government shutdown has ended, but it doesn't really feel like the crisis is over. A lot of us, well, myself particularly, we're a little worried that this was only temporary and that another shutdown could happen again. Okay, so today what I want to do is I want to look into how this uncertainty is reshaping where people live. You see, when paychecks, benefits, and various government services get disrupted, even briefly, it creates financial and emotional stress, not only on the government employee, but for those of us landlords who house or are thinking about housing government employees and government contractors. Okay, because see, the employees are going to get their money back, but the contractors won't. All right. So, this type of uncertainty makes long term commitments like a 1 year lease or a mortgage feel uncomfortable for many of the people in this particular state. And I also have to say this as a landlord, we're going to have to put, particularly for government employees when they apply for our properties, we're going to have to look past their credit scores, because I'm pretty sure many of their credit scores have become affected due to the shutdown. I've already heard that many landlords have evicted many of these government employees. So now that they're getting paid again, these people who were evicted, they're now looking for a place. Okay? So they're going to have that eviction on their report. We may want to reconsider holding that against them, given these circumstances were basically to a large extent beyond their control. Okay, so this is why I'm saying that there are other ways that we can sort of make a win-win situation appear. One of those is co-living. Co-living is shared housing. So basically, if you have more than one bedroom in your house or more than one bedroom in an apartment, instead of renting out the whole apartment or the whole house, you rent out the bedrooms in the house and they share the kitchen and the living room. All right. Believe it or not, many people are doing this anyway with their own family, and their place is overcrowded. And you might even notice, if you are a landlord, gee, I wonder why my water bill is so high. Yeah, because you have probably like 20 people living in one apartment, as opposed to just the three that you originally have on your lease. Right? So that's why co-living is something that more and more people are actually considering and looking into. It typically attracts the younger crowd. Younger people are interested in this because they're able to save more money, and it also tends to build community as well. Yes, you do have the risk of, people not getting along, but if you set rules and you set your boundaries up in your lease, then you know what? It may not be so bad. All right. Especially if, like what I have is I have not only multiple bedrooms, but I have multiple bathrooms too. So they don't, just two of them have to share one. The other one gets the bathroom, for himself or herself, as things go. All right. But the rent, listen, the rent is lower for the tenant because they're only renting the room as opposed to the whole place. The utilities are shared, and typically you, as the landlord, pays that. You can bill that into the rent, as a matter of fact, with a little padded cushion. It'll still be low for the tenant, but it'll still cover the cost of you owning and operating that particular place. Okay. So co-living is good to think about. And veterans, yes, some veterans were on Section 8, but there are other veterans that have other means of paying you, um, that that don't necessarily rely on the government, that you might want to consider renting to them. And what I like about them is they fix stuff. So they'll save you a lot of money when it comes to maintenance, normally, typically. I know that I'm being a little prejudiced. The next thing that you might want to consider is midterm rentals. Midterm rentals differ from co-living because co-living, all you're responsible for furnishing is the living room and maybe putting a microwave in the kitchen and a dining table, and that's it, right? But with a midterm rental, you have to furnish the whole entire house. The reason why people like midterm is because the lease is only 1 month to 6 months, sometimes less, sometimes a little bit more. But a lot of people like that because, some people, they may get a job in another state, but they don't know if they like one neighborhood opposed to another neighborhood, etc., etc. So they just want to test the waters for a little bit. They don't want to be locked down into a 1-year lease. Okay? So when you're flexible with the lease terms like that, then you'll attract more people to your property. Okay? And yes, you might get high turnover. However, you'll get less wear and tear on your property because they're not bringing furniture in. The furniture is already there. And for many young people, particularly nomads and stuff like that, they like it when a place is already furnished because it cuts down on their upfront costs. All right? They can move quickly, for that job without worrying about, okay, I'm going to be paying lease breaking fees, okay, and any other upfront costs that they may normally have to do for a regular apartment or a regular house. So midterm rentals is another viable option. And then the last viable option that you might want to consider is assisted living. So assisted living only will work when you have, like, let's say a house and it's only one story. Okay, it can't be multiple stories, and it'll even be a little bit more efficient if you have a ramp for those who are wheelchair bound. Again, you may have to make some modifications to the property, and you might need a license. See, with the other two, you don't need a license at all to do it at all. So even though assisted living up front might cost a little bit more money, it actually brings in the most money because you can make $500,000 on a 7-bedroom house. Um, Ask me how I know, because I was looking at a deal like that already. Now, again, the reason why assisted living is fantastic is because Medicaid, Medicare, Social Security, and then long-term care insurance, a lot of times they cover the cost of paying for someone who is staying in a room in that particular house. Okay, so you don't even have to worry too much about, oh my God, the government shut down, I'm not going to get paid. No, you will typically, you will definitely get paid. Again, yes, even though you'll make a good amount of money, you will still be responsible for paying the utilities. All right. So what you need to do, of course, is you will need to find out or figure out your staffing ratio, your emergency plans, and how to handle any type of interruptions that may come along the way in case you decide to go the assisted living route. All right. And then also, I forgot to mention with midterm rentals, um, they may not be legal in all states or in all counties. So you want to check with that as well. Co-living, I believe, is and is okay in just about every market. However, it may not necessarily be attractive to potential tenants in every market. I know that for a fact. Atlanta is a great place for co-living. It's something that I personally am considering myself because the property that I have down there has been empty for a while. All right, and this was before the government shut down. And I know several other people, other landlords who, again, their properties have been empty because people simply they can't afford the rent. Many people can't afford the rent on a 3-bedroom house. A 1-bedroom maybe, a 2-bedroom maybe, but a 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom, 5-bedroom, a lot of people can't afford that on their own. A lot of families can't afford that on their own. So that's why these alternatives are something that you might want to consider and you might want to look into. And as you guys already know, I've already done midterm rentals. I've done it for travel nursing, and I also done it for insurance placement. And this is the best way to go in this particular environment. Okay. All right. So basically, that's what I wanted to share. Even though the end of the shutdown, it's a relief for us all, but the memory of the disruption still lingers, and the anxiety of the fact that it might come back, is putting me on a little bit of a, I'm going to have to swing and do something different. Something that I thought I would just do for a year or two, I might end up doing it on a more permanent basis because of how and what the government is doing. All right. And honestly, I am one of those people. I do not trust the government. I don't. I'm not ashamed to say it. Um, I've had some experiences, and yes, I even worked for the government at one time, a long time ago. And that's why I'm saying what I'm saying. Anyway, that's all I have. Like if you found this helpful, subscribe if you want more updates on housing trends. And until next time, have a good night.